Okay, I'm going to demonstrate for you guys how to do several color pencil techniques that you can use to blend colors and values in order to make them look more realistic. We're going to be focusing on skin tones, so we're going to be using the Lyra sets of skin tones as well as the Prismacolor set to get realistic skin. So when you are pulling from the Lyra set or from the Prismacolors, you really want to kind of find a pencil that kind of matches your skin tone the best it possibly can. You can see with my hand at least it's a little bit more pinky, so I might want to go and see if there's another one that's even a little bit more pink. That one's a little less. Maybe I want to add some peach or some other sort of color to it, and so I'm going to test it out first. So I've already sort of done this. So what I found is that I'm going to use some of the paper showing for some of the light values, or eventually add some white. I'm going to use like a base color of this one, and I can tell what the color is on the Lyras because there's a number on it. So I actually wrote some notes when I was doing this earlier about which colors that I was going to use for my skin tones. Taking these notes helps especially with colors that look similar. I also found this other Lyra that has kind of purple tones to it, and so I'm going to use that to kind of dull down the color and also darken it. So I'm going to use just a little bit of it to dull it and then a little bit more of it to darken it. I'm also going to use just a little bit of peach to darken, and then lastly I'm even going to use a little bit of violet to darken this color. And so of course now it kind of looks like violet, but if I mix it more it will really read as a dark. But also a lot of times on our skin we actually see violet tones coming through on things like muscles, the circles under our eyes, creases, and so on. So it's okay to sometimes use and see color rather than just thinking of it being as dark like black or gray. Those things don't actually look very realistic. So the first technique we're going to practice is going to be our basic layering, and this is a fundamental technique that you'll use for all the other ones. It's kind of like the first step. And so if you were going to do this, this would be like the most basic kind of value changes and color changes that you could possibly do. And then I'll show you some other ways to make it a little bit more polished and refined. So the first thing you're going to do is you're actually going to do a base coat. And so I'm going to do a base coat over the entire sphere, but notice that I'm using light pressure. So I want to keep it so that in that highlighted section it's going to remain really light. So highlighted section, I'm going to let paper come through to be like that highlighted section, and then as I go into mid-tone I can go ahead and add a little bit more. So I'm using short, close, overlapping marks, sort of circular motions to smooth it out, and I can actually add more layers. In the basic layering you never really want to press heavy. You want to have a really light to like medium touch at all times. There's no pressing heavy. And this technique is a technique where you leave some of the paper to show the value. So this will take a little bit of time, but what you'll see is that as you kind of go through this, you can darken it. So I'm going to dull it out like I did on my value scale that I made. And I'm just going to use a little bit of it because I'm really just toning right now, I'm trying to dull it down. I want to make sure I'm using really good technique. Right. And I can do this in the highlight section too, but I just have to make sure I really am pressing lightly and I'm not pressing heavy at all. So then I can go ahead and start putting in things like shadow. Once again, still staying with light pressure, just lightly building this up. It's going to take you some time. I'm going to go kind of fast because I don't want to waste your time. but you're going to probably take 10 to 15 minutes just doing this. You want to make it look as smooth as possible because of course your skin is smooth. And just like lightly layer colors. Use the peach a little bit to make it darker. I'm going to go ahead and start to layer in some of my shadow. And you, on your image, will be able to look at your photo and go, well, how dark and how light do the colors have to get in order to make it look 3D? I would like you with each of these samples, if you haven't already done so, please watch those 7 ways to blend color pencil demo. Make sure that you do and take notes to go with each of these techniques, right? So that you know how to do the layering and how to know what it's good for, as well as the other techniques that we're going to try. So you're going to spend a lot of time just kind of going back and forth, making sure that it's as light and it's as dark as it needs to be. If you need to go back in and lighten something up or to take off a mark or something that happened, it's okay to use your eraser. Just know that on white paper, it's very difficult to get it to go perfectly smooth again. So you got to be really careful, or really, perfectly white again. So you got to be really careful not to press really hard if you want it to go lighter. You can see I made a little line here. I can go in and erase it and clean it up. Make some more gradual transitions. But use that reference of the sphere so that you can get the value on here. Okay, so you can get some nice gradual transitions. So you're going to layer it, but keep in mind, always light to medium. You're going to still see some of that paper showing. Okay. So that's the basic layering technique.